Nazim Martin, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me on your show.
Now, as we understand it, tens of thousands of jobs could be created in South Africa's green sector, green business sector. What is this sector?
The green economy, based on our understanding, entails industry or the production of goods and services within the South African economy. They entail a whole range of businesses, of industries, stretching from alternative or renewable energy sources as opposed to using coal to fire power stations. And these alternative energy sources could be harnessing wind power or harnessing the power of the sun. That's on the one extreme. On the other extreme, they could also entail energy saving devices, which means that whether we use alternative energy sources or not, or whether we use bad coal industries for that matter, then we certainly emit much less carbon, for example. So the green economy is about ensuring that we don't destroy our environment, yet we are still able to produce goods and services which we require, and we are able to also produce jobs for people at the same time.
Nazim, this is particularly important to South Africa because we know as we face energy challenges, the green sector is looking like a more and more viable and certainly a more and more important industry for us to really be investing in.
Of course it is. I think if one looks at the numbers, then certainly in 2014, if one just looks at the alternative energy sector, in the year 2014, approximately $8 billion was invested into alternative energy sources on the African continent, of which 5.5 billion went to South Africa. And roughly 40% of that money came from abroad. So it sparks a lot of investment, both locally, and it's also able to attract investments from offshore. I think at this particular point in time, if one looks again at alternative energy, then certainly alternative energy produces approximately just under 30% of the total capacity of energy produced in South Africa. Obviously, it's a large part due to Eskom's woes and inability to produce more energy, but certainly that's on the one hand. On the other one, and one could argue that it's Eskom's woes that actually sparked a much greater interest in finding alternative energy sources, and actually was a bit of a fillip and gave us a bit of a kickstart insofar as developing alternative energy sources is concerned. So from an energy perspective, I think it's good. Certainly within the South African economy, if one compares our country to many other countries, we are probably one of the worst economies when it comes to carbon emissions. And our attempts to try and reduce that emissions will certainly spur a whole range of businesses and sectors within the green economy.
With this incredible potential in mind, your organization has launched a green fund. Tell us about that.
I'm lucky and we're privileged to be working for a great organization, I think, that seeks to do good. And doing good, certainly in our world, means we want to focus on entrepreneurs because we think that they don't only see problems, but they see problems as challenges and opportunities to solve them. So we live for entrepreneurs, especially for entrepreneurs from the small business sector. And these entrepreneurs are amazing people. We finance them, we provide them with mentorship and technical assistance, and they go ahead and they pursue their businesses. In the process, they create wealth for themselves, they grow our economy, they pay their taxes and ensure that we are able to do all the beautiful socio-economic things like pay social security grants. And most importantly, they create jobs for many people. At the same time, within our context, we try and do that good, but we also try and ensure that the businesses we finance, at the very worst, don't adversely impact on the environment. At best, they help us to rebuild the damage that we have wreaked on the environment and so forth. So that's the good that we like to achieve. Effectively launching a green fund is in line with our business philosophy of trying to do the good I've just described, but at the same time trying to prove that one can profit from doing good work and having a positive development impact on the society in which you live.
So for the entrepreneurs who are watching this interview and want to find out more information about the Green Fund, how can they find more information? How can they interact with your organization?
We have a number of offices all over the country which they can approach. We've got 20-odd offices all over South Africa. Certainly we are in the major centers, in the capitals of the different provinces. They could also reach us via the internet. But when they do approach us, I think what we have available is funding. We have earmarked about 300 million rands worth of funds for businesses operating within the green economy. The typical transaction size could range anywhere between as little as 500,000 rand to up to about 30 million rand. And if we really want to stretch it, and if it really makes business sense, one may be able to stretch that exposure of ours from 30 to 50 million rand. But let me not mislead people out there. On average, we anticipate the first round of funding per transaction is probably going to be in the order of somewhere between 5 and 10 million rand. In addition to providing people with funding, we also we know from our own experience in the small business space that if all you do is provide entrepreneurs with money, then you set them and yourselves up for failure. So over and above the money, we provide mentorship, experts, mentors, both from a business perspective as well as from an industry-specific perspective, which will work with the entrepreneurs to ensure the success of those businesses in this amazing green economy sector of our country.
Nazim Martin, thank you so much for speaking to us today.
Thank you very much for having me.